Government's maxed out its credit cards again. This is Dave with the Bolduc Realty Group. Welcome to my weekly real estate market update. Today is May 19th. Happy Friday. Hope you got great plans for this weekend. Before we jump into what's going on with the government's credit cards, let's talk about a couple of key Connecticut stats. The big one is active houses on the market are up 3,909 from 3,656. That's up 253 houses. We had 456 new listings over the past day. So we are seeing market start to build a little bit, starting to see some houses come on. Hopefully this does continue. With 2,611 closings in April, that makes us have about 1.5 months of inventory on the shelf right now. So it's still low inventory, but it's, I'll take the good news where I can get it. Talking about key dates, the one I want to really hit on is the X date in early June. I want to get in a little bit of detail because this has to do with the government maxing out their credit cards. The other ones, you can see the dates, and we'll get back to them next week. So I was at Foxwoods with a friend a couple days ago. We checked the Players Club rewards, at the little kiosk that's always next to the ATMs. And as we were doing that, I overheard a guy at the ATM say, "Seriously?" And I kind of glanced over, and he had maxed out his card. He had no more money left. And it was pretty early in the night. He's kind of bummed about it. We've all been there. Well, the government's there right now. We're a couple of weeks from the X date. Now, the X date is the date that the government maxes out its credit card, can't take out any more debt. They've hit the debt ceiling. When we hit our credit limit, we got a few options. First, you need to stop spending, but we can pay it down. Or we can call the credit card company and say, "Hey, would you mind giving me a little bit more credit?" The government, it's pretty much the same thing. Instead of calling the credit card company, though, they got to go to Congress, and Congress has to pass a law. I'm not going to get into the whole, politics, which side, that's this side, that side. I just want to talk about why it matters for real estate. So why does it matter? It matters because normally, it is the norm right now, that the government spends every month more than it takes in revenue. So where does the rest of that come from? It comes from debt, issuing bonds. So if the government hits its debt limit and can't issue any more debt, then government spending needs to stop. And right now, government spending is about a third of GDP. So if the government can't spend anymore, GDP takes a big hit. Not only that, but government employees and employees at companies that have government contracts could potentially end up getting laid off, causing a massive hit to the job market. On top of that, if the government spending draws back enough, you could actually put required payments at risk. And there's a bunch of different required payments, but the one that I'm focusing in on is the debt payment. So if you or I, we don't pay our bills, what happens? Our credit score gets hit, right? And then that causes a problem for us. It makes it more expensive and more difficult to get the next loan, to get a car loan, to buy a house, or to rent an apartment, anything like that. So it's the same thing with the government, just on a much grander scale. If they can't make a required payment, a debt payment, then there's potential that they could have to pay higher interest rates going forward. Now, you've all hopefully potentially have heard U.S. government bonds referred to as risk-free investments. The reason they're risk-free is the government has never missed a payment. The U.S. government's never missed a payment. If the government does miss a payment, or if it's even in danger of missing a payment, which has happened in the past, I think it was 2011, it could be forced to pay higher interest rates on newly issued bonds. Since mortgage rates tend to track U.S. government bond interest rates, mortgage rates could go up, and they could go up a lot. I've seen estimates of mortgage rates approaching 10% if the government defaults. I don't know if that's right or not, but let's just assume it's close for just a minute. Demand would drop. I think we can all see that. It could go lower than supply. If it goes lower than supply, then you could actually see prices start to drop because sellers would have to lower their prices to attract that smaller pool of buyers. Prices going down might sound great. You're like, oh, that would be wonderful. I don't think it is, though. And here's why. Sellers are already hesitant to list their houses because mortgage rates right now, currently, are so high that it'd be very expensive to buy a new one. I talk to sellers all the time and hear this. So if the rates went even higher, then there's going to be even less likely to do it. And if on top of rates going even higher, prices started to drop, you're probably going to see a lot of sellers take their houses off the market, and ones that were going to list stop and just stay where they are. And for buyers, buyers could take a hit as well. So they might expect to see a lower payment because prices are down, but that lower payment could be wiped out completely by the fact that mortgage rates are higher. So let's look at this example. A $300,000 house today with a $10,000 down payment, or 10% down payment at current mortgage rates be about $1,764. That's principal and interest only. Does not include insurance or taxes. Assume the U.S. defaults. As a result, home prices drop 10%, but interest rates go up by 2%. The mortgage payment at that particular case would be over $100 a month more, $104 to be exact. So you can see that the price coming down, but mortgage rates going up, you can actually negate the benefit and actually make it worse. So hopefully you see the problems the real estate market could face if there is a default. The potentially large drop in GDP, significant layoffs, and higher interest rates could crush demand just as inventory in Connecticut is starting to come up. While this could easily result in lower prices for homes, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze on that one. There are options on the table. Congress and the president, they need to get to work and get it done. Primary mortgage market survey. Rates returned to that 6.39% from 6.35 last week. They're kind of bouncing around between 6.3, 6.4. They have popped up a little bit over the last couple of days because of everything I just talked about. So we'll see how that plays out over time. Overall, it seems like there's the strong jobs reports that we've been seeing conflicting with inflation starting to ease, and then certainly recession fears and fears of this potential debt limit crisis. It's got the mortgage market kind of in a limbo. They're not sure which direction to go. I believe we still do have a shot at a 5.5% rate by the end of the year, but there is a lot of stuff that we've got to navigate between now and then. That's what I have for today. Comments, questions are always welcome. Have a great weekend.